Hi, Ghosties. I'm Macy.
And I'm Natalie.
And that's Piper. Petey is also here roaming.
Running around the house. Or the studio. A room in my house.
A room of many purposes.
Yes.
And we're back today with another Listener Stories episode.
We're halfway through October already.
Is that true?
It's like, what, the 10th today? The 9th today?
In tarnation?
Okay, I say
Okay,
halfway.
we're like a quarter of the way through, yeah?
It's basically
a
half.
little over a quarter. Oh, hello.
And this is Petey.
That was so cute. All right, we've got some spooky stories. If you have a story that you'd like to send in to us, you can email us at ghosteaspod@gmail.com. That's ghosteaspod@gmail.com. We're going in order. Occasionally we jump around. So like if you were here on Monday, we did a themed episode and we just picked from the tranche of emails that we have. Other than that, I'm ready to get started. Our tea today is a Tea Pete, Republic of Tea, mulled apple spice.
Yes, it is. And my phone is on the table. So sorry for the unprofessionalism.
How dare you?
On my part, but without further ado.
Oh my gosh, let's go.
Let's go. Well, we tried.
We tried. Piper doesn't want anyone to know peace, so we had to go. But this tea, so good. If you don't like caffeine, if you don't like caffeine and you want a fall taste, so good. I forget about it sometimes. And if you hear scratching on the door, that's still Piper wanting to cause mayhem.
Yes, I do forget about this tea, but it's a good one. It feels right at this time of year.
Yeah, it does. We had a whole talk on Patreon about what feels like fall to us. And apples are a big part of my fall experience.
They really are.
And this is so good. I love apple cider.
I was on the phone with you today and we were talking about something and I heard you go like, son's name, do you want the rest of this apple crisp? And I was like, what are you? Who are you?
A person who loves apple crisp.
A fall gal.
I am a fall gal.
But what's more fall than
scary stories?
This is a weird start to today's episode. I'm feeling weird.
I am feeling weird as well. You also just took pre-workout to stay awake, so it's probably like just amping you up.
I'm vibrating inside. Well, I physically can't stay awake, so I know some people have commented before, and honestly, I was never going to address it, but I'm just going to address it. Sometimes my eyes fall. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Someone diagnose me.
I'll look at Natalie and her eyes are just closed at me.
And my brain is turned off. And then sometimes Macy will have to reread stories to me because I'm falling asleep.
Yeah.
Help. What do I do?
If there are any doctors out there.
Anybody, any advice? I'm not tired at all, but my eyes may close.
Well, the taste of fall gives me energy, so.
The smell of this is kind of, waking me up, but.
Yeah.
Let's go and do it.
Our first story is from.
Wait.
Leave that in.
I'm not saying let's go and do it.
Let's go and do it. When you said that too, it's like so like. All right. Our first story is from Cecilia. Hi, Ghosties. I'm writing from Italy to say I absolutely love your podcast. It's strangely relaxing, and I often listen to it while enjoying a cup of tea myself. That's like my dream for everyone.
I love when people say that.
Grab a cup of tea together. It's our tea party. I've always been drawn to the paranormal. Ever since I was little, I've had this fascination with the unexplainable, and I was always the spooky kid growing up. When I became a teenager, I started attending seances every Saturday with my group of friends. I was usually the medium, and more than once, our Ouija board or pendulum wouldn't work unless I was asking the questions or fully participating. It was like something wouldn't communicate unless I was there to channel it. But my story today isn't about any of those seances, even though I've plenty of spooky stories from them. I've always believed my family has a sensitivity to the spirit world, especially on my mother's side. When her father passed away from cancer the night he died, he visited her in a dream. They had a full conversation, and at first, my mom thought it was just that, a dream. But then she asked my grandfather if it was real, and he simply said, "If this isn't real, why are the birds chirping?" She suddenly became aware of the sound of birds chirping outside her window while she was still talking to him. My granddad then said goodbye and walked away. When she opened her eyes, the birds were still chirping, singing the exact same melody she had heard in the dream. She told me she never dreamt of him ever again.
A visitation dream. Starting off so strong.
Solid.
One of my special interests
They
visitation dreams.
give me such warm feelings.
Same. It gives me hope and makes me feel just like everything's gonna be okay.
It feels good. I know sometimes people don't like to feel like there's so much more out there. Like it feels almost scary to know that there's so much more beyond, but it gives me comfort to know that this is but a small part of whatever is out there, you know?
Yeah. Oh, we can't start talking about this right now.
All right.
My brain will fall out of my eyes.
To avoid that, we'll move on. Another time, my mom dreamt about one of her old high school students. In the dream, the student apologized for how she had behaved when she was younger and said she wished she would have been kinder to my mom. When my mom woke up, she found out that the student had passed away that very night. They hadn't spoken in years. After hearing stories like these from my mom, I started researching necromancy and began communicating with spirits on my own. And honestly, I love it. Over time, I became convinced that I have some kind of attachment. I don't think it's evil. It's more like a quiet presence, almost like a roommate I've learned to live with. Now on to the creepy part. One night I was sleeping in the living room because we were renovating our house. I had this strange dream where I was lying on the couch, looking around the room in the same way I do when I'm awake. Everything was bathed in this cold, bluish light. It felt like I wasn't really dreaming, just observing. Then I woke up. Except when I opened my eyes, the room was the same, only now it was filled with early morning light. But something felt off. I had this heavy, unsettling feeling like there was someone or something else in the room with me. I closed my eyes and suddenly I was back in that dark, old version of the room. But then I woke up again. I kept shifting between the dream and waking, but each time I felt that presence growing stronger. In the dim morning light, I saw a shadow moving down the corridor toward my mom's room. And I just told myself to go back to sleep, or what I thought was sleep. It happened a few more times, this strange back and forth between dreaming and waking, always with that creeping sensation that I wasn't alone. But then in one of those waking moments, I got up, and that's when I saw her.
Who?
At the...
Sorry.
We were just talking about owls, and you're like, who? Okay, sorry. Totally get back into this. At the foot of the couch, standing perfectly still, was a little girl. Or what seemed like a little girl. You see, the fact was that she had no face, just a blank space where it should have been. She stood there, watching me, or at least I think she was. My heart dropped, and my first instinct was to punch her. As soon as I hit where her mouth should have been, the faceless skin tore open, revealing a gaping black mouth that started screaming. I jolted awake, this time for real, and where the girl had been was my cat, Leo, staring at me. Well, not exactly at me, but behind me. I've always believed that animals have a heightened sensitivity to the paranormal, so I immediately thought Leo was there to protect me from something. But the way he kept staring behind me unsettled me more than anything else. I have no idea what to make of that experience, but I think about it a lot. I've had other dreams within dreams before, and I suffer from sleep paralysis, but this time felt different. I hope my story made sense. I really tried my best to explain it. And sorry if there are any mistakes. I really love your podcast, and I hope you do more episodes on Italian legends and folklore. If you need suggestions, let me know. Cecilia.
Oh my God.
I don't like it at all.
I hate that a lot. The image. At first.
Of the ripping skin.
At first. Sorry. I need to calm down. The pre-workout's really kicking in. At first, when they said they punched, like their first instinct was to punch, I was like, yeah, punch it. But then I said,
it actually might have made it worse.
No. Keep it faceless. Now that adds like another layer to my fear when people are like, it didn't have a face. Is that
what was behind
the
always facade?
What's under there?
I don't know. Also, would love to do more Italian things. If you have any suggestions of haunted places in Italy, drop them in the comments. 100% will do it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And also, I thought this was going to just like having fear. Could it have been a car far away? Okay, I heard that. Comment if you heard that. But anyway,
I'm scared.
Our next story comes from Andrea. Hi girls, I am a new sub and am currently binging all your content. I love what y'all are doing with the pod. My family has had many encounters with the paranormal and such, but I wanted to share with you two that have really stuck with me. The first happened to me a few years ago. I used to live alone with my father in an apartment complex not too far from my job at the time. This allowed me to be able to head home for my lunch. There was one day that I came home and was in the middle of making a sandwich when I clearly heard the front door open and my father call out my name. I answered him, saying I was in the kitchen, as I saw a shadow pass by in the bathroom mirror that was across the kitchen. I thought, oh, okay, he's going to the room. While I was still fixing my sandwich, I got this unsettling feeling and realized there was no way this had just happened, as my dad was in the hospital recovering from surgery. I grabbed my keys and walked out quietly, locked the door, and ran to my car to call my dad. I had heard stories like this before that resulted in the person dying, and I had to confirm that my dad was alive and doing well. This encounter still makes me uncomfortable to think about.
I was literally going to say, like, please call your dad. I'm scared. That was my first thought, and I really thought this was about to turn a lot darker.
Well, warning, this second story does contain 2 deaths, so it will get a little darker. Before starting this story, I need to give you some explanations. We live in Texas in an area that is not frequented by owls. We are Latinos, and in our culture, we happen to have many paranormal and demonic legends and cryptids that we hear about while growing up. Things like La Llorona, Twin Days, and witchcraft. One of these is the Lechuza. From my understanding, they are witches that shapeshift into these big owls to do their evil bidding. They are said to come out and cause harm, steal babies and children, or simply appear to announce a bad omen. For context, my sisters and I had no idea what this was, as our parents never told us about it. I happened to hear about this from another podcast and did some research out of curiosity. One day, while talking about how many losses we'd had in such a short amount of time, I made a comment to my mom regarding bad omens and the Lechuza. My sister, overhearing the conversation, runs to the table and asks me to repeat what I had just said. I explained to her what the Lechuza was, and see her face sadden as she continues to tell us the following encounters. My little sister was in the backyard one night with her boyfriend and dog when she noticed an owl sitting in a tree staring straight at her. My sister, being the silly goose she is, decides to hoot at it. To her surprise, the owl hoots back. This continued for a bit, and she started recording the interaction and began to feel a bit uneasy, so she gathered everyone up and went back inside. The weekend that followed, our older sister passed away in a car accident. This happened in 2021. Towards the end of the year, she was outside again and noticed another owl. This time around, she just decided to go back inside as soon as she saw it. My father had a stroke shortly after and passed away while in the hospital in early 2022. Thanks for reading, Andrea.
I'm so sorry.
I know.
That is unbelievably sad.
I'm so sorry for all of your loss. But that's not the first story we've heard of
Owls
connected to death and bad omens, like predicting, almost like a banshee.
Oh, this is not good information for me to have.
Like I said, you know what? I regret now not doing La Lechuza in a Monday's episode.
Well,
I wish I would have. I had it researched, and
We'll
I was
get
like,
to it.
there's just so many good stories. Our next story is from another Cecilia. Cecilia
What?
number 2.
What?
I know, it was so weird. I went back and I was like, is this the same person? No.
That's not a super common name.
In
that
the same
I've heard.
week, in the same day, they sent their email to us. Hello, girly pops. Just wanted to start off by saying I love the podcast. I watch y'all on YouTube and Spotify all the time, and y'all are so amazing. Now, on to the scary story, and I hope this story gets picked.
Thank you.
Back then, when I was around 11 or 12 years old, my mom would always drop me off at my cousin's house due to my mom working night shifts. So I would always spend the night at my cousin's house. At the time, my cousin used to live with her dad and her brother, and to paint the picture, the house was so old that you would always hear the floor creaking when someone walked. My cousin's room was at the front of the house with a restroom right next to it, and her brother's room was the basement in the back of the house. To walk to her brother's room, you have to open a door, then 2 steps down, and his room is to the left. One night, it was just my cousin and I in the house. Her brother was out at a party, and her dad was with his family. So she and I were getting ready to go to bed, but she stated she needed to go to the bathroom and closed the bedroom door. I was laying in bed trying to get comfortable when all of a sudden I heard the basement door open very quietly, then shut forcefully. It caught me by surprise, and I just stood up to listen. As soon as I stopped moving, heavy footsteps started walking towards the hallway. 10 seconds later, my cousin walked into the bedroom, and I asked her if she went to her brother's room. She said, "No, why?" I told her I heard the door open and footsteps. She looked at me very confused and said, "You're just hearing things." I thought to myself, maybe I am, and I just need to get some sleep. 5 minutes later, we both heard heavy footsteps walking towards the bedroom door, and my cousin and I just looked at each other. We were both frozen in fear. Then light tapping could be heard. Tap, 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 tap. I kid you not, I felt like I was going to soil myself. My cousin was brave enough to open the door.
Sorry. I did not mean to say that out loud.
My cousin was brave enough to open the door, but nobody was there.
I'm so sorry. It came out. I'm genuinely like, I'm so sorry.
The spirit of SpongeBob just took over you.
It just came out. I'm shocked that I said it. You could probably see it on my face.
She walked to her brother's room just to come back and let me know. Nobody's here. She closed the door and got into bed. That night, it took us a while to sleep, but eventually we drifted off. To this day, I am 25 and she is 29 now. We still talk about it, and family always think we're crazy. I hope you guys like my story. I have many stories I can tell.
It's a good bonding experience to have with your cousin, I guess.
Be home alone and hear footsteps and doors opening.
You can tell the tale later and everybody was okay. So it's like fun to just be like, you remember that one time?
That was crazy.
We were so scared.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, Psh, yeah. I think that's
I agree.
Horrifying, but like a fun thing to have.
It is
after
what you said. Bonding. Good bonding.
Yeah. Trauma bond, even, if you will.
If you will. Our next story comes from Nicole. Hi, Ghosties. Love the pod. Keep up the good work and enjoy the scariest thing I've ever experienced if you end up reading this email. So I know that cryptids can be hard to buy into, but I'm telling you, something of the kind is very real. I wouldn't believe it if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes. I would swear on literally anything that the following story is 1,000,000,000% true. I wish it wasn't.
All right, I'm taking your word for it. I already believe you.
This next story does contain talks of murder and infant death, so just warning for that. Several years ago, while in college, a friend and I visited our shared hometown. It was late, likely around 11 to midnight or so, and we were looking for something to do. I did a search online for something in our area. There wasn't much, as we were in backwoods, rural Ohio. I came across a webpage talking about Schrader Road Tunnel in Chillicothe, Ohio, also known as Crybaby Tunnel. Legend goes that in 1990, a woman's body was dumped in the creek next to the tunnel. Her infant son also went missing. Supposedly, there were several suspects, but eventually her husband confessed to killing his wife and son, her son being dumped elsewhere. I found a story from this website to be interesting, considering what my own experience involves. Quote, I guess it was maybe 5 minutes that we were sitting there when all of a sudden we heard what sounded like a baby crying. It wasn't coming from the top of the tunnel though. It was coming from the woods. So on to my story now that there is some context there. We put the address into the GPS, drove to the location, and followed similar ritual steps in order to hear the supposed baby crying or the woman screaming. We drove into the tunnel, parked my little old S10 single cab truck, and rolled down the crank windows. We turned off the truck, flashed the lights 3 times, and then turned them off. Now wait. For a few minutes, we sat in pitch black darkness. Back then, I was anything but afraid of really anything. Frankly, I was more worried about real people than anything of the paranormal sort. My friend started to get scared at this point and said that she thought she heard something outside her window. I told her we should just wait and see if anything happens, but she was begging me to leave at this point. Up to now, I honestly hadn't heard a thing. I started up my truck and she frantically started cranking up her window, which again was a slow and, in this situation, scary long process. I know, it's so frustrating. As I began to drive out of the tunnel, I slowed down because just outside of the tunnel, I noticed a bunch of deer standing in the road. Laying amongst the deer on the road was a naked, hairless, and skinny creature. Its head turned quickly, looking up at my truck as if we had taken it by surprise. Its eyes were huge and round and glowing whitish yellow, reflecting my headlights. It was huge, taking up most of both lanes on the road. I remember when it reached out its arms, it looked as if maybe it was connected to its side, like from elbow to the ribs, amphibious-like. This thing shot up at unreal speeds off the road, up the embankment and into the woods. The deer scattered, and I floored it. I screamed at my friend. What was that? The way I screamed and the fear I heard in my own voice is what grounded me and made it real. I don't know, she said. Is it following us? Again, the sound of panic in my voice was making my heart sink further into my stomach. I don't know, she said again. I looked over at her. She was sitting straight up in her seat, grabbing the dashboard as I tried to go down the dark and curvy back road as fast as I could. Look behind us, I can't take my eyes off of the road, I yelled at her, almost angry. I was totally in survival mode. I can't look, I don't want to look, she screamed. I tried to glance in my rearview mirror but saw nothing. We drove 2 hours straight out of our hometown and back to our college town in Cincinnati. I was not about to stop that car before I was under bright city lights. So many years later, I hardly believe I experienced it myself. It's the way I remember my own fear and my friend being there with me that keeps it real. I've told this story so many times since then. I have loads of ghost stories, but this one is unlike the others. This was undeniably real. This was a creature. A cryptid, I guess. This is obviously not my picture and likely not a real photo, but this is what it looked like.
Oh, Macy.
I've seen that picture before and I don't like it.
I've seen that picture before too and I hate it.
Many people who hear my story say it was the rake, but that it's not real. That's just a creepypasta. It did look like that, but this was not a fun, scary story. It seriously freaks me out, even now, just knowing that we apparently live in a world where these things exist. Does our government know and keep it a secret? Are they an undiscovered species? I have a couple of theories. I've considered aliens, the rake, but what I really think it was an SW. It was amongst the deer. Why wouldn't they run if it was crawling amongst them? Why didn't I see it at first? I saw the deer and then suddenly I saw it there on the road. Others have heard a baby crying in the woods. A person standing near the tunnel. Is it a mimic? A shapeshifter? I will never know, but I hate to think about it. Lucky to have gotten away. Sometimes I still think it might find me for having perceived it. Let me know what you think. Again, love the pod and keep being spooky, Nicole. We know that SWs are over in like Dene country. So like it's in the Four Corners area. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it was an SW, but it was some kind of shape-shifting something. Maybe, yeah. I don't know much about the knot deer, but something like a knot deer.
What?
Or like it can shift into something else.
We have played.
No, we need to look it up.
We've been on Patreon, our live, like 3 times where people have mentioned knot deer.
But that knot deer is a windy boy.
What is it?
I think Until Dawn, it's Wendy's. And I don't know if they're 2 different things. Whatever this is, don't like it. It's a shapeshifter. It is baby crying, obviously, or maybe
it's mimicking.
It's not obvious, but yeah, it's mimicking something.
Whatever.
The fact that it was seen in its like real form, and maybe that's why it skittered up the bank.
Oh, skittered.
Or embankment.
Oh my god! And now I'm remembering at the very beginning of this, Nicole said, "If I didn't see it myself, I would not believe it."
Yeah.
Oh no,
Nicole, you got me.
Oh yeah, this is not good.
Okay, leave in the comments. What do you think? Has anybody else in rural Ohio or surrounding area seen something like that? I also remember, what did we read about? A crawler? Someone sent us a story about a crawler that like shot up the light pole or something.
Yes.
So is that related?
I don't know.
I have that on my list. After I read that story, I moved like crawler. I was like, we gotta put crawlers. Now I need to know what the rake is. Our next story is unsigned, so anonymous.
Ooh.
This story comes from my workplace and the experiences my coworker and I have had. I have worked at a dollar store for 2 years now and have always noticed and heard strange things.
Dollar stores are haunted.
Particularly Dollar General.
Every last one, I've never felt safe in a dollar store. Not like, oh, a person's going to come up and stab me. No, it's like paranormal. Like, I'm scared.
They have some mimics in the back room.
Yes. What is that? Why?
Though
I guess we're about to find out.
I did have a scary experience at a Dollar General with a person. It was really creepy.
Do tell.
Okay, quick little aside. This man was walking around and I was in the store with Jake and we were getting snacks or something for dinner or something. And I was walking through and I kept noticing that guy. He was in the same aisle as me. And this was when we lived in Houston, so it was like busy. And every time I went to a new aisle and was looking around, there he was at the other side.
That's when you start barking.
What I noticed...
Okay. Sorry.
That's hilarious. What I noticed, he had like, I don't remember exactly what he had at this point, but it was like a pair of gloves, rope, and something else nefarious.
That's when you say,
well, I said, hey, Jake, because we split up and I walked over and heard him and I walked into the aisle with him and the guy walked the other way and went to check out.
I just had a chill run down my whole body. My scalp has like goosebumps.
It was so scary. It was dark. It was at night and I walked up to him and was like, I think he's following me. We need to get our stuff and get out. I don't even think we ended up getting anything. We might have just left that night. But I told him when we got back to the car, I said, I'm never coming here again by myself. Because it was right across, like, we lived in this neighborhood, and it was, like, right across the highway from us.
In that same shopping center? I know what you're talking about, because I lived with you for
2 days.
2 days.
Very
Moved my stuff
nice.
out. In that same shopping center, I was driving around town looking for places that were hiring because I was going to live there and I was going to like wait tables there. I walked into a Bahama Bucks, a snow cone place. I don't think it's there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Walked in there to get an application, walked out, and this man got in my face close to me and was like complimenting me and being weird. And then he handed me his card and was like, I'm a photographer, da, 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 and then was watching me. I called mom. I was like, I'm scared. I don't know what to do.
Is that why you only lived there for 2 days?
Yeah. Immediately I was harassed. So I was like, I'm going to go.
Yeah. Scary times, dude.
Yeah.
Scary times. Okay, anyway. Unsigned, anonymous, I hope your dollar store wasn't scary, full of scary people. Anyway, the longer I work there, the more that unfolds. One thing they have tried to hide from us upon hiring us is that the building is allegedly haunted. But by who, what, and why? Way back when it used to be a hardware store, the owner suffered some severe hardships and was losing business fast. It's rumored that one night he had had enough, and unfortunately his hardships caught up. The workers scheduled for the next morning allegedly found him.
Oh, no.
The new owner, my boss and manager, my mom, and daughter all believe the store is haunted by the old owner and many more old spirits. The manager has taken a Ouija board to try and talk to these ghosts and figure out who they are and where they come from. She had some luck, but had to stop because things were getting creepy. While playing, things began to fall off shelves, get knocked off pegs, fall over, and the ball from our ball bin started falling out and rolling all over the store. She figured that the spirit in the store means no harm other than to scare us. That was a few years ago, and she hasn't done it since, but weird things still happen around the store. Myself and my coworker will often find handprints and footprints on the floor. Sometimes they appear wet, others they appear dirty but clear enough that a print can be picked off of them. During our cash outs, the lights will flicker and stuff will fall randomly, and again, the balls from the ball bin will come rolling out of our toy aisle. I'd like to note that we do pick up everything off the floor before cash out begins, including the balls. When alone in the store, myself and other key holders have experienced the voice of a male. The first time I worked alone, and the last time I ever will, I heard a man say, "Hello, help me," followed by light humming. At nighttime, our security cameras often pick up figures or a wave that looks like oil on water passing through the camera. Recently, one of the buildings close to the store caught fire and burned to the ground. No one was hurt or killed, and the building was vacant, but since then, the activity in the store has increased. The front door will open and close at random, and our lights flicker a lot more than they used to.
That is such a dark start to that story
I know.
about how it became haunted.
Yeah. I want to know what the connection is to the store close to it. Like, did it burn down and the spirits are like, well, need a new home.
Maybe.
Shift on over to the dollar store.
That's really spooky.
Creeps me out. Our next story comes from Aubree. Hi, my name is Aubree, and I got the idea to send this from The Most Haunted Roads Volume 1. This story begins with me hanging out with my boyfriend. He told his mom that he was taking me home, and we went to drive around. At this road, he has a connector road that's private. At this time, we didn't know. We decided to stop on the road because it was super dark, no houses around, and complete woods. So we stopped, and of course, I leaned back eating a Pop-Tart. We turned the lights off to scare ourselves until we heard something hit the side of the car on the passenger side where I was. We froze. It shook the whole car, and at first we thought it was an animal that ran into it, but it made no sound, and absolutely nothing was around. We sped off, and still to this day, we have no idea what it was and never went back. That's weird.
I would have had to look. I would have had to shine like a flashlight.
They said they looked and there were no animals or anything around.
Maybe that was just one of their guardian angels being like, hey, get out of here.
This is a private road.
Or the person that lives down the private road.
I don't like that. That's worse.
Crawling around out there.
Oh, Natalie.
Being weird.
Natalie, no.
You never know.
Okay. Our next story, I'm disturbed. It's from Gabriel. Hello, Macy and Natalie. My name is Gabriel. I recently found your podcast and have been listening ever since. I wanted to send you my experience with the paranormal, as you may find it interesting. I had a pretty normal and quiet childhood, except that I had numerous instances of seeing moving shadows, feeling like I was being watched, terrible nightmares, including a handful of recurring nightmares. As I got older, I wrote it off as an active imagination and nothing I could feel sure about being accurate memories. I've always been sensitive in a way and have been aware of that all while growing up. I can walk into a room and just feel this intense and uncomfortable pit in my stomach. sometimes accompanied by my eyes filling with tears, even if I'm not feeling any specific emotion. I learned to just leave a room or space where it feels off and move on. I had always been on the fence about whether I believed in ghosts or energy until I went on vacation with some friends in 2019. My friends asked me to join them for their family vacation at a family camp on Elkhart Lake in Wisconsin. This camp is over 100 years old and has many cabins you can reserve for your stay. My friend's parents spared no expense and reserved one of the largest cabins with 4 bedrooms, a common area, and a screened-in sunroom. The group consisted of my friends, who are married, their 2 kids, and her parents. I was given a room of my own that had 2 twin-size beds along the wall with a gap between them. The wooden floors were a little creaky, but it was understandable given the age of the cabin. I chose the bed that was furthest from the door, with the head of it being in the corner of the room. Something about the room felt slightly off, but it wasn't anything that bothered me enough, so I ignored it to have fun on this trip. The first few days were wonderful and the weather was perfect. However, on the 4th day, there was a thunderstorm with heavy rain. I went to sleep that night only to be woken up by an incredibly loud noise that startled me out of my sleep. I saw that it was storming and went back to sleep, assuming that a tree branch or something fell to make that noise. The next day, the weather was perfect and there was barely any wind at all. I went to sleep that night and was, again, startled out of sleep by a loud bang. But this time, it was totally quiet in the room. It sounded like it was right above my head on the wall. Just seconds after the loud noise, I heard the sound of someone slowly walking from the side of my bed, down around the end of the empty bed and over to the door where it stopped. I was scared because it was such an unmistakable sound. You could even hear the slight swish sound of skin on the wooden floor, like when you walk barefoot and drag the soles of your feet slightly. I laid in bed with the covers over my head, going over and over in my mind what could explain away what I heard. There was no air conditioning or heat in the cabin, so no vents or ducts between the walls. The only pipes were in the center area of the cabin for the one bathroom and a sink in each room next to the doors. But those ran under the cabin and nowhere near the head of my bed. I wondered if anyone in the room next to me was awake and making noises, but again, it was completely silent and you could easily hear if someone was talking or moving around in the cabin. I was 23 at the time and was self-conscious about being freaked out about a sound. I pulled the covers off my face and tried to relax, but I couldn't sleep and remained awake for at least 20 minutes until it happened again. This time, I was fully awake and aware of what was going on. The bang sounded like someone took their fist and hit the wall as hard as they could right above my head. It was so loud that I jumped again. Then, just as before, footsteps slowly walking away from the side of my bed and over to the door. This time, I was freaked the hell out and shaking. I tried to decide what to do and I ultimately got up, put clothes on, and ran out of the room. It was only 4 a.m., but I didn't want to be in the cabin anymore, so I walked down to the lake and sat in a chair to watch the sunrise. Once everyone woke up and headed down to breakfast, they saw me and asked why I was up so early. I asked them if anyone heard a loud bang sound or if anyone was up making noise. They said no. No one was up and none of them heard anything. So I figured it wasn't something I should keep talking about in fear of being labeled as crazy for hearing things walking around. Luckily, that was the last night we were spending there and headed back to Indiana that afternoon. I'll never forget that experience and it has certainly changed my view on ghosts and energy. I often wonder if it was a spirit that didn't want me there and was trying to get me to leave, or if it was a residual energy haunting and it was just a scene playing over and over again. Either way, I learned to trust my intuition about places a little more. Thank you for listening and I hope this can bring someone comfort if they have had a similar experience. Thanks again, Gabriel.
I hate that because I would be the same way. Being
Too afraid to tell someone?
Yes, too afraid to be like knock on the door like, Mom, I'm scared. Can I sleep with you?
With your friends?
Yes, I would.
I was about to say, if it were me, you'd be like,
oh, I would be leaping into your arms immediately. But if I was just with friends, I'd be like, no, they're
and
gonna
their
think,
parents?
Yeah, I'm like, no, they're going to think I'm like weird or like a weenie. Like, I can't do that.
That's the one time, like, I'm okay with going outside. Like, to leave the cabin.
Oh, about to say.
No, for Gabriel. To, like, I didn't want to deal with this game. It was only 4 a.m., but I'm out. I'm going to go sit by the lake until there are other people around, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I would probably go sit outside my friend's door.
Just, like, sitting there curled up.
Or sit in the corner.
Ugh, creepy. Our next story comes from Caida or Kaida. So tell me which way to say your name. Hi, Ghosties. I wanted to share some stories from either my family or my experiences. I love your podcast and could not be more grateful you guys had the idea to do this. Thank you. One time, my cousin was living in a haunted apartment. Regular ghostly things would happen, such as doors closing, TVs turning on and off, bangs, etc. When she would put her son in the bath and turn away from the faucet, the water would start pouring out as hot as it could get. She had to run the full bath before putting her son in. My mother's sister was on her deathbed. They were able to make a plan for after she passed away. The plan was to shake the hanging glass hummingbird my mom had hanging outside her kitchen window. A few days after her passing, the hummingbird started banging against the window hard enough it would have shattered. It went on for about 5 minutes while my mom was sobbing. The hummingbird wasn't even cracked.
That's gonna make me cry because I told you I would give you a sign as a hummingbird.
I know.
Oh my God.
I was very close to my grandmother before she passed, and for a few weeks before she passed, every time I saw her, she would go on and on about the conversations she had with Beverly. Beverly was her sister that had passed years prior. She would talk about the conversations as though she didn't know Beverly passed. She never showed any signs of dementia or Alzheimer's. She would also always see a little girl and would tell me, "Go play with that little girl in the corner." About a year after her passing, I had a psychic tell me she was with a little girl that was one of her spirit guides. There is no known little girl that has passed in our family. I've been wanting to tell you these stories for a while when listening to you and finally built up the courage. Keep on keeping on because I love y'all and you always brighten my day. Caida.
Thank you. I can't handle the sadness
Those
today.
are so sweet.
It's really sweet. But this is a heavy one, not gonna lie.
Our next story is from Kaylee. I used to live in my childhood home from the time I was around 6 until I was about 16. When I was 10 to 12 years old, I had a very specific room set up, specifically on my nightstand, that would come into play later. I had a few books, an alarm clock, a diffuser, and some other little knickknacks. So here's the backstory. When we first moved into our house, I noticed it had an odd but comforting sense to it. I have always been very sensitive to the supernatural and am a full believer in the afterlife. A neighbor, about a year into us living in the home, had parked his car on the edge of our yard because it was icy and he could not make it up to the steep driveway. He mentioned something to my stepdad when the neighbor came to retrieve his car. He had mentioned that an old man had once lived in our house and would make his rounds along the path of where the woods in our backyard were, so he would not have to cut the weeds and little plants. He then, very sinisterly, mentioned that one day he simply did not come out. This is the real reason we got a discount on the house. I believe he died in the basement. This is where the laundry room was. I remembered this so vividly, I can still remember the way he said it and his tone of voice. To this day, my stepdad denies that our neighbor told us this, but I know for a fact it did happen. We then began to notice odd things beginning to happen in the basement. At first, just playful things like the light flickering. If you asked him nicely to stop, he would. But then it became locking us in and me being blamed for it. I knew it wasn't me, but they did not believe me. Then it became odd. Side note, I think the sinister things that took place was not this old man. It felt darker and uncomfortable. Even typing it out makes my eyes water a little bit. I would reach for door handles, and it would feel as if someone was holding the other side, so I couldn't come out. During the dead of night, me and my mom would notice faint music playing, kind of like an out-of-tune piano with no specific melody. To add, I had the only entrance to the attic. It was so small and hot, it would have been impossible for a squatter to live there. The covering began to move, little by little, and was in a different spot every day. This freaked me out because I had just learned about frogging. This is when someone lives in a house like a squatter, but people still live in the place.
And they have no idea. That's my biggest fear.
Horrifying. Horrifying thought. Worse than any ghost or spirit
Just
ever.
a person up there in your home.
One of the things that did happen that I still believe was the old man trying to get my attention. Simple things, such as me leaving the room and coming back to find everything on my nightstand completely out of place, and sometimes knocked off. And my door would open and close. Again, he would stop when I asked. Very polite, very demure. Long story short, I stopped having these experiences once I moved. My mom and stepdad still live there, and my mom updates me weekly. I have many more sinister stories if y'all would like to hear them. Love, your ghost pal, Kaylee.
Thank you. We would love to hear them.
Yes.
They're still in the home. Interesting.
I know I emailed like, any other strange things happening around your home?
Very scary. That's a really scary thing. to think
thinking about Froggers.
that, and like if you move into a house and you don't, what if you don't ask and they don't have to tell you? Because there are some places where they don't have to tell you anything.
Oh, that
Someone
something has happened
died
in your home?
there. Or
Yeah.
someone committed a crime. You could just move in and not know.
Well, next time we move, we need to do our research.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna know everything about that house.
Our last story comes from Jenna. Hi, Ghosties, longtime listener, first-time writer. My experiences with the paranormal have varied, but with recognizable categories: sleep paralysis demons, habitual haunts, family/guardian angel visits, etc. A recent episode of Listener Stories inspired me to tell one of my own stories because, like you, the intention of a mimic is so curious. It seems innately sinister. It is tricking you after all. But other stories indicate it may just want to be a part of the live world around it. After college, I moved into my ex-boyfriend's house located in a remote part of Virginia. He had a dog, Cujo, that was over 100 pounds of pure muscle with a bad history. Cujo was abused, possibly a fighting dog. Any living creature was met with aggression and trusted very few humans, as historically, people allowed or even encouraged this type of behavior. I was going to postgraduate school, so I was home when not in class while my ex was working 10-hour days, which meant Cujo and I spent a lot of time together. Since I treated him well, had patience, and generally loved him as any dog, he became loyal to me.
Oh.
My ex never treated him as a normal dog since he knew his history, so there came a point where Cujo would have such a preference for me. He would not allow us to get intimate, attacking my ex for getting physical with me, saying that just to point out how protective this dog was of me. We had a routine. My ex would leave between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m., and I would wake between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m., depending on my classes. Cujo slept at my bedside and would not move until I did. When I got up for the day, I would walk down the hall to the kitchen and let him outside. Being a young small woman in the middle of nowhere, his aggression was an asset, and he was so protective of me, he would never go far. I'd open the doggy door so he could come in when he was ready, and I could use the bathroom, watch TV, start breakfast, or whatever. Throughout the day, this dog never left my side. The only time he would ever leave space between us was when he would get the zoomies. The stairs that led to the basement created a sort of island on the main floor, especially since the basement door was always closed. The walls encasing the stairs created a wide column that could be circled, and Cujo and I would chase each other around this column on the regular. We'd pause when we were on opposite sides, and all I'd have to say is, "Cujo, what are you doing?" It was all wood floors, which made it hilarious to hear his paws scurry in response. But like a cartoon, he'd be stuck in place for a moment until he got traction and pop around one of the corners to continue the chase. It was a pretty open house, so one side of this column was the sealed front door. The side/kitchen door was the main entry, which connected to the family/dining room on one side, the hall on the other side, and the kitchen on the opposite side. Running around this and switching directions to catch each other was his favorite game. One morning with the sun pouring in, just as usual, though maybe even notably a late morning, around 8 or 9, I got up and let Cujo out the kitchen/doggy door. I went back down the hall to the bathroom, and when I came out, Cujo was standing in the kitchen just looking at me. That was strange since he usually came to my side, even if I was moving around, so I thought he was playing. Instinctively, I said, "What are you doing?" And he took off in his signature cartoon style. I went the way closest to me to cut him off, but heard his paws scrambling on the wood floor, trying to give a better chase. So I ended up making a full circle from the hall to the front, past the family/dining room, ended up back in the kitchen/hall when I heard his paws stop running on the opposite side by the front. Obviously, he's excited, waiting for more play. I say, "Cujo, what are you doing?" Silence. Weird. So again, "Cujo, what are you doing?" Nothing. Worried, I just call him, knowing he will respond, or he's in a medical emergency. I yell, "Cujo, come!" Not even 5 seconds later, Cujo sticks his head through the kitchen's doggy door. He's not playing our game, waiting on the opposite side of the house. He's still been outside this whole time. Looking back, I don't know how I reasoned fast enough that the dog at the doggy door was the real Cujo, but I bolted towards him and ran outside, because I knew he would attack any person, animal, anything. I shoved him inside and stood there waiting. He normally picked up on new smells and certainly sensed things. He frequently would wake out of a dead sleep to listen or sniff around. Sometimes he would track whatever woke him up to various windows through the house and growl or bark. For my own sanity, I reasoned it was deer moving around outside that he picked up on. He stood just inside the door, wagging his tail and smiling at me. I said, Cujo, go. He stopped smiling, tilted his head, walked in a circle, and laid down. I figured he wasn't going to leave me, so I came back inside and had him walk the circle of the basement stairs. Nothing out of place. He didn't even put his nose to the ground. He just stood next to me, panting and smiling like normal when I would stop. Now, to be fair, I didn't feel anything off or a presence despite my attempts to figure it all out. I would 1000% trust that dog with my life, and he showed no concern, but I know what I saw. It was broad daylight. I was awake, and even more awake after that experience, and my insistence of this experience and others to my ex is a part of what led to our breakup. Side note, friends, do not settle for someone that invalidates your experiences. If a non-believer cares about you, they would believe that you believe your experience happened and would have compassion if it actually did occur, despite them thinking it's BS. Almost a decade later, long after Cujo has passed, I still don't know what that was. It's not a ghost. Cujo wasn't at rest. Demons do take on other forms, but nothing felt nefarious. Maybe a mimic, but it only happened that one time and never again. Maybe there were such strong emotions, joy, comfort, security, tied to that habitual action we did, we created what will be a ghost. Maybe it was some other wrinkle in the fabric of reality or a glimpse of an alternate dimension explainable by science we don't yet understand. I hope to hear this read on the show one day because I'm interested to hear what you think. What was it? If it was a mimic, does this change your opinion of them? Is it possible evil mimic encounters are actually demons tricking us and true mimics are neither good nor evil? Never stop spilling the ghost tea for us. Stay safe, tea. Okay, that one was bad. LOL. Love you guys. Jenna.
Okay, first of all, R.I.P. Cujo.
I know.
We miss you. I never met you, but I miss you. And that is so sweet.
That's a cute one.
And I'm so sad that he was in a bad situation, but so happy
He
that
found
he
a
had
loving
you.
home.
Woo!
Yeah.
Okay, don't want to be super emo, but
I like so much. Well, first of all, I'll address the mimic thing. Do I believe that mimics could be demons? 100% yes. Natalie said it before.
Yes.
I think everything is a demon.
Yes.
Everything. Second, well, not everything, but you get the point. Second, other mimics could be neither good nor evil. I think that's a possibility.
I think so, and I never
I
considered
think
that.
some mimics could just be curious.
Yeah, and what I was going to say...
Either way, like they said at the beginning, they're tricking us.
Yes.
Either way.
But what I was going to say is if they're neither good nor bad, maybe they're just curious, what if the mimic thing saw how much fun y'all were having? They're like, let me try this out.
I want to give that a try.
It's kind of cute.
That is interesting.
It's kind of cute.
But I do like Jenna's last theory
Mm-hmm.
of it being like an imprint, like a residual haunting.
That made me like
their little game created like something that's going to repeat for forever.
Yeah, that made me like, that hit me because I said, oh no.
Because when you think about when I think about residual hauntings,
mm-hmm.
obviously most of the time I think of darkness. So like something negative, like imprinting on the space and the time.
Yeah.
But something so good, like a little, like the happiest that dog has ever been, just like spinning around the little island.
And I love that because my dogs do that too. On the wood floor, they don't move.
Like the little
yes.
Yeah.
It's so good. Wow, what a way to end. I loved that.
Yeah.
That's a great story. And I'm ready to read everybody's comments about that
and
one.
Thoughts.
And all the other ones. This was a good episode.
Good combination.
I liked it. I had a lot of fun. And I hope y'all did too.
Yeah, so like this video if you liked it. Share it with your friends if you feel compelled to do so. And subscribe for more. We've got another episode coming tomorrow. Our costumes aren't going to be as like absolutely insane. I think that first one was a good one, but I think it was our most like crazy costume. Wouldn't you say?
It was fun. Yeah.
It's hilarious. Also, looking at me, I should have had like a cape or a coat or something.
It was so funny.
It was hilarious. I'm glad some of y'all enjoyed it.
You was the Hat Man.
Some people were like, I could not watch this video.
Why?
Because every time they looked up, it was creepy.
It was kind of scary. It was. But it just mostly made me laugh because hearing your voice come out of the creepy thing was just hilarious. Comedy to me. Yeah.
Yeah. It was kind of funny to watch. I'm not going to lie. But tomorrow we have another costume and the rest of our costumes are just kind of like cute little things we threw together. So I'm excited.
Yeah, me too.
You can follow us on Instagram at GhosteasPod. And if you'd like to join our Patreon, you can. It's patreon.com/ghosties, also written down in the description below. We've got fun things.
We had a video on Monday and we have lives that we do. The lives are the most fun part about Patreon.
Honestly, yeah.
I don't know what it is, but
if we can find time,
have a great time.
We are going to try and do another free live this month.
Yes.
If we can find the time. It's just, Natalie is a very busy person.
Unfortunately.
So go ahead and join. You can join Patreon for free if you don't want to pay the $5. That's totally all right with us. I know that's already asking a lot of you, and we just appreciate all of you just being here, just in general. Like, this is way more than enough.
Yes.
So, with all that said,
if you're still here, leave what are we feeling? If you're still here, even from last week's episode and now all the owl talk, leave an owl emoji.
yes, I hope there is an owl emoji. There's got to be,
There
right?
is. I think there is.
Okay.
Let us know that you're still here.
And if you don't have an owl emoji, just say hoot.
My God.
Maybe.
Imagine the comments. All right.
Just hoot, 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 hoot.
But we'll see you
Tomorrow.
Goodbye.